There have been a few occasions in which I was so infuriated, shocked, or upset over a situation, I nearly quit watching auto racing. For good. Amongst the 49 drivers that I have rooted for in all forms of motorsports in some capacity, I have only lost 3 of them. All 3 to racing wrecks. On this channel, I have covered multiple racing events that have occurred in 2009. What if I told you that those 3 factors nearly came together all at once, and you would know nothing about it because in all likelihood this video, let alone this channel, would not exist? If one major situation in auto racing that happened in 2009 had ended in the worst way possible, it's very likely I would not have continued with auto racing in any capacity. Now, what is this situation I'm talking about, you may be asking? Well, in case you hadn't noticed, the 3 drivers I have lost in racing wrecks come from ARCA, the NHRA, and IndyCar. I am lucky to have never lost any of my NASCAR dozen. But there have been times where I did come close to losing one of the NASCAR dozen, and not just one of them either. This accounts for multiple members of the NASCAR dozen. All of us racing fans are always saddened to lose any racer. There are those who have had to deal with losing a racing favorite, sometimes even multiple racing favorites and in multiple forms of motorsports, like I have. Even worse, there are also those who have had the worst and most tragic experience possible in all of auto racing, losing their #1 racing favorite, their all-time favorite racer, in a crash. And in 2009, I nearly joined that group. "... 2009 had a lot to live up to. 2008 was such a great year for racing with a lot of exciting racing and title battles. And some of the absolute best that year came from the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Every race had some sort of major story and had the fans talking. A lot of times even more than Cup. And the championship fight was one of the best ever. The reigning champion, Ron Hornaday, was looking to be the first driver to win the Truck Series title in back-to-back seasons, having won the 2007 title. In 2008, his championship rival was Johnny Benson, who was looking for his first Truck Series title in his 4th full-time season. Johnny was the points leader for a good portion of the second half of the season. However, NASCAR decided to implement a rule change in September, reducing the horsepower of the Toyotas in comparison to the Chevrolets. This plan to keep things close in NASCAR's eyes backfired on them at Martinsville when the Chevrolets lost big time due to a fuel mileage finish.
Right now on Ron. Ron locks that lock run up again.
And that allows Kevin Harvick to get right up next to him, but we know Kevin won't pass him.
We assume Kevin won't pass him.
We would assume Kevin wouldn't pass him. Team owner for the 33.
You can see Johnny. Oh, Hornaday's out of gas.
He's out of gas.
Hornaday goes to the inside. He looks like he keeps it going though now.
It picked back up. If you watch, it won't go now.
Out again. There he is, out of fuel right now.
A huge event taking place here as Hornaday trying to move back and forth to get fuel on the pickup. And so Ron Hornaday with issues with that truck. The caution has not come out.
Ron's coasting through turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, what a huge point implication this is going to be.
This is going to be very big for Johnny Benson.
We've got 24 trucks right now on the lead lap. The best Ron Hornaday's going to do if he gets back to his pit. Look like he's not going to make it. I don't know if he's going to make it.
If the caution flag comes out now, a green-white checker could compromise other people's ability to get to the checker flag. He's still rolling. The white flag is out.
White flag in the air. 1 lap to go for Johnny Benson. Kevin Harvick looks like he's out as well. Kevin Harvick is weaving back and forth. Here comes Dennis Setzer now as Harvick runs out of fuel. He will pull in right beside his team truck, and now it's all Johnny Benson working his way out of turn number 4. Benson is going to win in Martinsville. Johnny Benson, your point leader, is in victory lane.
And here he comes. Johnny Benson will climb out of this number 23. Almost hard to believe. A truck with no sponsorship on it today. But what an unbelievable points day. And Johnny Benson, you had never led a lap at Martinsville till today, and man, you had a strong truck.
That was pretty cool. I don't know what to say. You know, Trip Bruce and those guys did a great job, and week in and week out, they always build me great trucks to go race with. And I think, you know, everybody, well, not everybody on this week, we didn't have anything, but still Toyota certified used vehicles and XI batteries, and of course, Toyota for everything that they do, TRD, just everybody involved. Trip, you're the man, brother. And yeah, you know, I learned a lot today, probably more from the 24 today, sitting down in 1 and 2 during our 3 hours worth of just sitting around waiting for the race to start. So I sat down there and watched for a bit, watched a bunch of different lines down there, and Trip gave me a good truck, no doubt, but just a couple different lines down there really worked out great. So got to say hi to my girls at home. They're sitting there watching us. Too bad they couldn't be here. So God, who else we got to thank? Just everybody. You know, Bill and Gail Davis, and like I say, everybody at Toyota. The engine ran flawless. Goodyear tires were awesome. Just it's just way too cool. I love Martinsville. I don't like sometimes how it races here, but it's cool to be in victory lane here, I tell you that.
Johnny, 104-point swing today, but I think the most amazing part, Skinner comes in here to give him congratulations. The most amazing part is a lot of guys talked about maybe not even pitting today. The rest of them went with fuel only, and you guys came in with a planned 4-tire stop, and I think maybe that was the difference to get you enough fuel to get to the end.
Well, we came in the same time they did, so our fuel aspect was about the same. But I knew that, you know, with the different plate that we got that nobody else has got or whatever, it takes more fuel mileage. So, or it uses more fuel. I'm sorry. And I was really having to be easy on the gas. And our Tundra cornered so good. It was just unbelievable. That's where we made all of our time up through the corners, and and then right at the end, I was starting to pedal a little bit when I had that lead, and then of course I didn't know I happened to run. I don't know if he ran out of fuel or what he did, but the minute I saw that, I just assumed it was fuel. I let right off the gas and just half throttled the last 2 laps. And you know, I saw Kevin coming, but I figured he'd probably be close, same boat. I'm pretty sure we're out. I wasn't going to go around and do a victory lap, so I'm sure we're out too.
Well, congratulations on getting to victory lane. 4 to go in the championship chase.
Well, it ain't over until it's over, you know. I mean, we had a 119-point lead a little while ago, and of course we had our misfortunes at Vegas, but Trip and the guys just weekly do a great job for me, so that makes my job a little easier.
Despite Hornaday being disadvantaged at that point, he did manage to make it up with his horsepower advantage in subsequent races. It got to the point where the 2 drivers were separated by 3 points come the season finale. Basically, whoever would finish ahead of the other in the final race of the season would be the champion. Hornaday looked to be the easy favorite. However, a late race caution changed everything. Hornaday, who was ahead of Benson, pitted while Benson stayed out on the racetrack. So while Todd Bodine had to fend up the likes of Brian Scott, lol, and Kevin Harvick, all Johnny Benson had to do was beat Ron Hornaday in a 2-lap sprint to the finish, and he wins the title.
Todd Bodine gets a good restart. Johnny Benson also a good one. Here comes Ron Hornaday. He looked to the inside, knew he had to check up.
Scott Speed did not get that good of a restart. He lagged back on the restart, couldn't get going. Ron Hornaday is now on the inside of Scott Speed. Scott pinches him down.
Oh, flies! Contact was made. Ron Hornaday trying to clear that 22. He can't clear him. Down the back stretch they go. Johnny Benson's got the lead.
He's getting a push from Eric Darnell trying to clear the 22 truck. He does get by the 22.
Johnny Benson has the lead in this championship. Can he hold on to it? And can Todd Bodine hold on for the win? Right now, the white flag has come out. 1 lap of racing to go. 1 truck separates Johnny Benson and Ron Hornaday.
Guys, I think he has too far to go. I don't think he can catch him, Mikey.
He's gaining on him. On the inside of Johnny Benson is Travis Quapple trying to pass that truck. I don't think so either. I think Johnny Benson's going to be your champion.
Hey, remember Atlanta. Ryan Newman passed Ron Hornaday for the lead. Cost him 15 points.
Johnny Benson currently running in the 6th spot. Could that be enough for a championship? Coming out of turn number 4, it's going to be Todd Bodine winning the race, and Johnny Benson will win the championship.
Buddy, you are the man. You are the man. Good job, buddy.
Wow!
Unbelievable.
What a race.
In 1989, Johnny Benson won the late model championship at Berlin. In 93, he won the American Speed Association. In 95, he won the Busch Grand National Championship. And you are now the last ever NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion. How does it feel?
More than words can describe. I was kind of crying down a backstretch, but hopefully I'm over it. It's just when Wayne come over the radio and said congratulations, that's way pretty cool. I mean, it's fairly emotional, obviously. These guys are the one. You know, Tripp told us early on, it says if we ain't the fastest, we will definitely do what we have to do and be the smartest. So Ron and Rick and those guys did a tremendous job all season long. It was a great run. My wife kept telling me you only got to win by 1. Yeah, she kept saying, God's already got it planned. It's all set, and it's going to be what it's going to be. And that's how my approach was going in the race. It's going to be what it's going to be. And just if Ron didn't come in, I was going to try tires. I knew that was probably not going to work. And then I thought I lost it when the 09 got by me there. I was just really bad at the end, and just I thought that lost us. I tell you the truth. And I got to thank Excite Batteries for being on board this weekend. Toyota certified used vehicles. Some people have done such a great job, and we got Ron.
Good job, buddy. Good job.
There's this man here is what makes this so meaningful, because he's a hell of a racer. Best there is in this sport.
We want to run at each other so bad when we were side by side.
Yeah.
We did.
Thank you.
Did you know that the points were that close all through the last few laps?
I don't know if you paid attention, but it was pretty close coming into this race. So I don't know if he finished 1 or 2 behind us. I still don't know that, because it took a long time for him to decide who actually won it. But got to thank my wife Debbie and both my kids. They've been at every race I've won this year, so that part was pretty cool. Got to really thank Bill and Gail Davis. This is for them. I mean, they have gave me a great opportunity along with Toyota to come do this, and it was just awesome. I'm glad that we could get that for them, because it means more to me to get that for them. They've done so much for me.
Johnny, the official presentation will be coming up here in a few minutes, but Brad, if we can get a shot here. This is Caitlin and Michaela, and check out the t-shirts, guys. My daddy rocks. They got it right this time. Johnny Benson, the 2008 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champ.
It's time to hand out the hardware. Let's go back to Ray Dunlap.
Well, thank you, Rick, and I'm down here at the stage, and you know, for 9 consecutive seasons, we've had a different champion in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and what an unbelievable finish. And now we get to give some hardware, and I'm glad to have Mike Helton, president of NASCAR, here to give some congratulations to Johnny Benson.
Johnny, congratulations on behalf of all of NASCAR. I know the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series fans expected no less, but that was one heck of a finish. Great championship. Congratulations to Bill Davis Racing. You guys earned it. We're proud to have you as our Craftsman Truck Series champion.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I mean, it's been just a huge pleasure to be able to be with NASCAR for as many years as I've been, and this means a lot to me. So thank you very much.
And let's get the trophy presentation. Scott Howard, who's Director of Brand and Sponsorship for Craftsman. And Scott, your opportunity to give away an awful nice trophy, the last time ever for Craftsman.
Absolutely. Johnny, congratulations on the thousands, on behalf of thousands of Craftsman tool users and our manufacturers. Congratulations on 2008 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship.
And there is a trophy. You get to hold that thing up high, and there'll be lots of pictures coming your way.
Johnny Benson winning the championship in his 4th full season of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. This is Bill Davis's first ever NASCAR championship, and it comes right here in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
And Bill Davis was key to Toyota being in the Truck Series, helped them get up and running, and now to stand there and celebrate with the championship trophy, I know that's got to be special for he and Gil. What a great couple they are.
It was an amazing battle. Most people thought for sure that Hornaday would win the title. But strategy, and personally I think Johnny outsmarting literally everybody, though he denied that, allowed Benson to do what many thought impossible. So, how would things go in 2009? 2008 was Craftsman's finale as title sponsor. Camping World was coming in as the new series title sponsor. It was also the end of Bill Davis Racing, the team that Johnny was driving for, as they would shut down during the off-season due to sponsorship woes. For 2009, Johnny ended up at Red Horse Racing. A lot of changes for sure, but with how 2008 went, 2009 had a lot to live up to. Oh boy. 2009 did not get off to a good start, with Tobodine triggering this big one.
Oh, we got a crash in the tri-oval. James Busher got turned. Big crash.
Oh, and now coming up behind him, we've got quite a few more trucks that are moving into the smoke and can't see where they're going.
Johnny
Benson, one of those trucks.
Ricky Carmichael got hit. That was just a situation where Busher had gotten touched in the left rear quarter panel. I was watching this develop.
Yeah, that's Johnny Benson saying, sorry, fellas, we're done.
James Busher was running second when they crossed the start-finish line to Ron Hornaday.
And I think
there's James Busher right there and Johnny Sauter.
I didn't really see Busher do a whole. I can't tell what happened.
And remember, Johnny Sauter was just leading this race not very long ago, and he is caught up in this as well.
Look at the whole back's gone off Ricky Carmichael's truck.
Yeah, Jason White has some damage in that gunbroker Dodge. A lot of damage for Johnny Benson right there in that K&N filter Toyota.
That's a big crash.
Yeah, again, we heard Johnny Benson come on the radio and say, sorry guys, we're done.
We saw Jason White yesterday let Dennis Setzer drive his truck, and evidently they learned something, because he's been right up
Larry Foyt
in the battle for the lead. Jason White has, and now he's torn up like a lot of other good trucks, obviously.
The Blue Frog energy drink.
It's
for Larry Foyt. And there's Johnny Sauter. Good to see him out and about. And he ended up right in the door of that 10 truck of James Busher. There's Ricky Carmichael. Looks like his first try here at Daytona in a truck is going to end prematurely.
I watched that happen. Somebody got a hold to Busher. Todd Bodine, I think.
Yeah, James is on the outside of a 33 of Hornaday. It looks like Todd drifts up the hill, gets into him a little bit, turns him sideways.
James was perfect. He was up beside Hornaday racing for the lead, and Todd and you know, we talked about how difficult it is to race a truck through the tri-oval. Todd couldn't get his truck turned, and he got into the left rear of Busher.
They call it a straightaway, but it's really not. It's an 18-degree banked turn.
There goes Johnny.
Johnny was trying to make his way back to the pits, and then obviously had an oil line or something ruptured, and that caught fire for a moment. He just turned her down on the grass. Here's another view here. There's a contact right there. Watch this now.
What if you're James Busher, 18 years old, racing for the lead at Daytona, and get taken out by a veteran? That's got to make you scratch your head. He's the one that's supposed to make the mistake. But that just goes to show again how difficult it is to get through this tri-oval.
30s with you on your bumper, 30s with you.
We're talking about 3 feet. Todd drifted up about 3 feet, and that's when he made the contact with James Busher. James was trying to side draft off of Ron Hornaday.
4 on your bumper, big start here.
Oh man, Ricky Carmichael.
Behind you here, big time.
Just barely.
And Todd just drives away.
Take a look at Johnny's on board.
Kyle Busch on the inside, the Miccosukee Toyota.
Middle. Spin in front of you, easy back. Go, go, go. Keep going.
Ooh, didn't quite make it. Took the back end off of Ricky Carmichael's truck.
You see that truck of Kyle Busch? He just worked his way right through that baby. Not a scratch on it. Down on the inside.
You heard Johnny Benson's spotter say, big wreck in front of you, ease it up, and then go, 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 knowing that he had guys behind him that were probably going to run into him.
Yeah, tried to get by that incident, just unfortunately made contact with Ricky Carmichael. Ricky, a victim of circumstances. Really, everybody in this accident a victim of circumstances because of the contact between Todd and James Busher.
Not the welcome the NASCAR Ricky Carmichael was looking for. What happened on track?
Hey man, just an unfortunate situation. they kept telling me I was doing a great job. I'm like, man, I wrecked. But, you know, I don't know if what happened. They shuffled one guy out, and I was just behind Todd, and he got a little loose there. So I tried to move up a little bit because I didn't want to bump him. And then that other guy, man, he just drilled me from the side, and the rest was history. Just unfortunate, man, at Monster Energy. Kevin Harvick Incorporated Chevy was awesome. Those guys worked so hard, and we were doing it, man. If I can get an ounce of luck that I had a moto, give me something to work with, we'll be all right. But it is what it is, and we go on to live another day, man.
Glad you're all right.
Thank you.
Well, let's hear from Johnny Benson. Not a good way to start defending your title here tonight. That was an incredibly hard hit to the left front. What happened?
Well, I'm not sure what happened. All I know is I squeezed between the wall and the 10, and I thought, well, that was close, you know. And Rock Air Spotter just did a tremendous job getting us through that. That 4, I'm not sure where he came from. He definitely came from a long ways away. And the time that I did see him, I tried to beat him, but I couldn't. He come up across too fast. So other than that, our K&N Filters Toyota was really good shape. It ran good. The engine ran good. Trip Bruce and the guys just did a great job. And it just it's too bad that we're out, because I think I don't know if we had a shot to win the thing, but it was definitely a top 5 truck just kind of cruising along there. And I surely didn't expect. Usually the safe place is up front, but apparently that wasn't the case today. And I was just got caught up in it, and caught a little fire, and now we're done.
Well, we want to hear from Johnny Sauter real quick. Boy, you had an interesting night tonight. Is that to say the least?
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast. Just they don't call him the Onion for nothing. So I hate it for all my guys. ThorSport, all the guys worked really hard, and I hate it for Mike Curve. He was down here, Duke Thorson, and all the people at ThorWorks. Chevrolet was awesome. That's all I can say. I had a blast. We had something dragging early on, and we had to come down and pit, and was able to go from the back to the front, and got to lead a couple laps, and you know, I had a good time.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, the front end of this number 13 truck completely tore off. Definitely done for the night for Johnny Sauter.
They don't call him the Onion for nothing.
Todd, of course, got away with it and won the race. The season was here and there for the first part of the season. Johnny did come close to winning the race at Kansas before rain came in, and the race was ended in favor of Mike Skinner, who was Johnny's former teammate at Bill Davis Racing. Things were going fairly well. Not 2008 well, but fairly well. Until we got to Michigan. Before the Michigan race weekend, Red Horse Racing had announced that Johnny's team would be forced to shut down due to a lack of sponsorship. With the exception of Daytona, Johnny had run the season sponsorless up to that point. It's believed that sponsorship was found in some company in relation to guns, to which Fox, who owned the Speed Channel, at the time said they would not show Johnny on the track if this sponsorship was put on his truck. To which, A, I would have dared them to try to avoid the reigning champion of the series. B, Jason White's truck had Gunbroker.com as a sponsor, and they had no problem showing him. So, yeah. And C, Johnny had a teammate in TJ Bell, who didn't have a sponsor either, but he could continue? Yeah, no. Regardless, Johnny's team was shut down before his home race. That in itself was dumb. Then it came out that Tom DeLoach, who partially owns Red Horse Racing, told Johnny that he could fund the team without sponsors the entire year.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Even better, a couple days later, Red Horse Racing says they are starting a new team entirely with Timothy Peters as the new driver. Excuse me? Even better than that, Timothy Peters, next to never had a sponsor. Ever. I am not making that up. I'm convinced that Timothy being the priority guy for Red Horse Racing is what caused Red Horse Racing's eventual shutdown in later years, with that team being loyal only to him and not other superior drivers, this including Todd Bodine, who I'm not exactly fond of. Regardless, that Michigan weekend was the beginning of Timothy's tenure at Red Horse. As for Johnny, he would be in Michigan anyway. Michigan, like I said earlier, is his home state, and he was going to be at Berlin Raceway competing in the ISMA Supermodified race the same day as the truck race he would be forced to sit out. With a couple other racing series there as well, the people in attendance believed they were in for a good show. Johnny had won his heat race for the event. When the main event started for the Supermodifieds, Johnny was in the middle of the field as the race started. Things were going pretty decently. Until lap 2 going into turn 3.
I think it is too.
Did you see that on the camera? Or?
Yes.
I think that's Johnny Benson.
Yeah, it is.
Should have saved that last lap for cross finish. Just couldn't wait.
You know, it's him.
That ferocious crash drew an obvious red flag and left the entire crowd stunned silent. There were some screams that a fire had erupted. Johnny was the main driver involved in this crash, along with another driver later identified as Larry Leonard. Johnny, who I guess didn't want the people in attendance to be scared, tried to tough it out and get out of the car on his own. Yeah, let's just say that wasn't happening. So Johnny had to be extricated from his car, and he was sent to a hospital as everyone in attendance was very concerned for him. Meanwhile, only the people at that track knew this when it happened. The rest of us, more than likely, were watching Joey Logano win the Kentucky Nationwide race for a second straight year. We knew nothing regarding that Supermodified wreck until the following day.
A dramatic scene unfolding at Berlin Raceway in Marne last night. Two cars collided, number 21 Johnny Benson and number 92 Larry Leonard. 24-hour News 8's Jessica Leffler is live from Spectrum Hospital, where the defending NASCAR truck champion has been recovering throughout the night. Jessica, what's the latest on his condition right now?
Mark Hospital staff tells us that he is still listed in serious but stable condition. We have it all caught on tape. We got this video from photographers who work with Berlin Raceway. Witnesses tell 24-hour News 8 that the cars were just coming around to take their second lap, and that's when the collision happened. It happened at turns 3 and 4. Benson's car exploded into flames, if you see from our video, and it was burning on the track. Number 92, Larry Leonard, had no reported injuries. We caught up with witnesses who saw it all unfold from behind a camera lens.
When I saw the crash, the car bounced off the wall sideways like that, driver's side. It right away sinks in my head that this isn't going to be good. But with the way the cars are built, like I said, these days, the outcome is normally a lot better than what it would have been years ago.
We're going to continue to stay on top of this story throughout the day. Look for updates on WoodTV.com. For now, we're live in downtown Grand Rapids. I'm Jessica Leffler, 24-hour News 8. Mark, back to you.
If you had watched the pre-race shows, you might have heard it mentioned in some regard. I myself did not know about this until right before the green flag to the Michigan Cup race. I am not making that up.
Before we go racing this afternoon, our best wishes to Johnny Benson, involved in an accident last night at Berlin Raceway. We talked to the people from NASCAR. They've been in contact with Johnny's doctors. He does have some broken ribs and perhaps a damaged lung injury, but we understand he's doing a little bit better today. And Johnny, we hope you're watching and feeling better, and everybody here was asking about you and thinking about you today. So our best get well wishes to Johnny Benson.
When Bill Weber said damaged lung injury, I flipped. Everyone who was watching with me turned to me thinking I already knew about it, when I didn't. A couple of my friends later told me during a commercial break that they feared Johnny was going to die. Yeah, needless to say, Bill saying that put a damper on watching the race. Thank God the race had a great ending and a popular winner.
White flag is out. Jimmy Johnson's out of fuel. Jimmy Johnson is out of fuel. Biffle leads. White flag in the air. This is the last lap.
Biffle may be the new Silver Fox.
Well, hang on. We got a long way to go. You got Mark Martin sitting right there. Mark just moved to second.
Biffle's, he looks to be slow.
He's slower.
Is he slowing?
He's off the pace.
He's off the pace.
Here comes Mark.
Oh, he's barreling.
Oh my God! Oh, look at Biffle.
He's shaking it. He just went to the switch.
Here comes Mark. Oh no!
Half a lap from the finish. Mark Martin to the lead.
Incredible.
Does he have enough fuel?
This is drama, dude. This is...
Oh yeah, he can coast from here.
Out of
He's
four.
got it.
Biffle's going to coast.
He's got
Mark
four wins here and another one today. Mark Martin takes the checkered flag of Michigan. That's why you love racing.
Man, that's exciting.
That's pretty cool. That is cool right there.
Mark Martin had never won a race starting outside the top 25. Never until today. He started 32nd.
The next update on info regarding Johnny's condition came from the show known as the Speed Report. This is when I found out about it being a Supermodified wreck and that he had suffered broken ribs, not fractured ribs. He was also listed in serious condition, not critical like some sources had reported. I knew I was going to get some more info the next day on the Monday Roundtable edition of NASCAR Now.
Marne, Michigan at Berlin Raceway. Johnny Benson, the Truck Series champion, taking part in a Supermodified race. He wrecked on lap 2, had to be extracted from the car. He was taken to a Grand Rapids area hospital where he still is today, recovering from some injuries.
I don't know a lot about it other than I did hear he was, injured, pretty bad, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. I hope, he's going to be fine.
I'm not sure what his injuries are, but it's certainly, we're thinking about you, knew about it first thing this morning, and I hope you get well soon.
A lot of us are thinking about Johnny Benson, and I want to say hi to Johnny. I know he's in the hospital. He got hurt in a Supermodified crash last night, so just want Johnny Benson to know we're thinking about him and you're feeling better.
It's like a family member that you don't ever want to see something like that happen, and certainly racing with Johnny over the years, I really hated to hear that, and I'm really hoping that he comes out of it okay.
A statement was released on JohnnyBenson.com on Sunday night. Quote, "We would like to convey our gratitude for your concerns, thoughts, and prayers during this time. Benson remains hospitalized in fair condition, is expected to make a full recovery. Latest reports from the hospital in Grand Rapids say he's recovering from a few broken ribs, a broken wrist, and a punctured lung, but the good news is he is expected to make a full recovery." All three of you gentlemen have been in wrecks, some more serious than others. Boris, you were the one involved in a fiery crash most recently. How is the recovery process when you need to get back in the car eventually?
It's fine, but the most amazing thing about this sport is, these guys are so competitive. They'll trip each other to get to the snack bar first. But every time somebody gets hurt, it doesn't happen often, it becomes a family. Everybody pulls together. Any kind of help Johnny needs, I'm sure he's going to get from all the racing community. So even in my fire here, I've had so many people calling, so many emails, it felt like I should have been hurt worse because all these people called and said they're praying for me and doing things like that. But it really is a cool sport when the community all pulls together when something tragic happens.
What did you experience during your recovery?
Nicole, as a race car driver, you think about winning races, leading laps, just testing, everything but getting hurt. And when you get hurt, you don't really know how to act or what to expect. It's difficult, frustrating, and it's so nice to hear your peers reach out to you and wish you well, and I want to echo their sentiments to Johnny.
Well, we all want to wish Johnny well, and he's going to make a good recovery. The one thing that Johnny Benson, Boris said, Ricky Craven, myself, all drivers are doing, when you're sitting inside that race car, remember we're doing what we want to do. We're having the time of our life. We're not expecting to wreck. We're not expecting a tire to blow or anything like that. So unfortunately, there are those risks that come along with this sport. Johnny's case, hopefully he'll be recovered here shortly, be back in a race car before long, and go back at it again.
It was certainly a rough week for Johnny Benson, whose Red Horse Racing team had to fold because of the economy. He was out of the ride. Even Kyle Busch reached out to him before this incident and said, "I'd like to stick him in my truck before Milwaukee next week," so Benson had an opportunity to go and win a 4th straight race at Milwaukee. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But the interesting thing with your wreck, the fire around you, you said, calm down, don't breathe.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens when you wreck like that. Really your instincts take over. And I panicked for a little bit when I was on fire. I was actually engulfed in flames for 18 seconds. And the only smart thing I really did is I kind of calmed down and did not take any breaths, because then you burn your lungs. You could get hurt if you inhale that hot air. So I was a little lucky in that respect.
Not the case with Johnny Benson. The reports are that he is suffering a punctured lung, bruised ribs, and a broken wrist. Johnny Benson, Get well soon.
A West Michigan racing legend, Johnny Benson, continues to recover after being seriously injured when he crashed and his car caught fire at the Berlin Raceway last night. Tonight, he's in fair condition and expected to make a full recovery. Leon Hendricks has been following the developments all day long. He's at the live desk now with more from Benson's sister, who talked only to 24-Hour News 8. Leon?
That's right, Emily. She says he's doing well considering the crash and the pictures we've seen of it. Benson was traveling at speeds topping 100 miles per hour in front of a crowd of cheering fans, a crowd that fell silent when they realized their hometown hero was in harm's way. It was a day at the races that took a terrible turn.
I was sitting in the fourth turn, so I had a first-hand view of all of it.
Seeing the crash firsthand, Johnny's sister Barbara, who with Johnny and the rest of the family considers Berlin a piece of home.
You know, we grew up at Berlin Raceway watching my dad race, and that's what we did on Saturday night. So he feels close to the heritage of Berlin, and he's made every effort to come back here.
Benson was coming home to race in the Supermodified 50-lap race, an event he told 24-Hour News 8 he was looking forward to.
And Saturday night we're bringing in Supermodified back here to Berlin again, so we're really looking forward to it. I mean,
Coming home to Berlin is something he always loves to do.
It's very important for him to come back to the hometown.
Crashes are to be expected at races. Benson has been in them before. That's him in Truck 1. By the way, he won the Craftsman Truck Series last year. But as far as crashes go, photographer Steve Bennett, who captured these pictures, says this one was extreme.
I've seen thousands and thousands of crashes. I've been at Berlin Raceway 17 years, and the crash I saw tonight with Johnny Benson, I have to say, was one of the top 5 most serious crashes I've ever seen there.
A crash that in an instant hushed thousands of cheering fans.
You had almost 4,000 people there, whatever the count was, and it was dead silence. It was just, you could drop a pin and hear it.
Who are likely happy to learn that Benson is expected to be fine.
I know that, you know, everybody's thinking about him, and we really deeply appreciate it.
Now, the racer he crashed with, that was Larry Leonard. He is doing fine at this hour. As far as Benson's injuries, he had at least one broken rib, but his most serious injuries came from inhaling the chemicals that were used to extinguish the fire that his car was engulfed in. Reporting at the live desk, Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.
Despite the added detail of a broken right wrist and being upgraded to fair condition, the conflicting report regarding the injured lung was making me a bit uneasy. But I felt much better the following day when at the end of the Tuesday edition of NASCAR Now, it was announced that Johnny was released from the hospital and went home.
And some good news for Johnny Benson. After spending a few days in the hospital recovering, he has gone home. We'll see you tomorrow night at 5. Have a good night.
A West Michigan racing icon is out of the hospital tonight after a nasty crash at the Berlin Raceway, and he's telling his story to 24-Hour News 8.
This, the first picture of Johnny Benson Jr. since he left the hospital, taking a closer look at his wrecked race car after the Ottawa County crash.
Let's go down to 24-Hour News 8's Jack Doles, just back into the newsroom after catching up with Benson tonight. Jack?
Yeah, Brian, 3 days after that fiery wreck left him hospitalized, Johnny Benson is out, and he did go look at that car today at his parents' home in Grand Rapids. That's not exactly going to lift your spirits, and if you know Johnny, you're not surprised that he did that. He wanted to see if this thing could be salvaged at all. It was his special modified car that he had built all by himself. Johnny suffered 3 broken ribs, a cracked scapula, broke both collarbones, broke a wrist, and suffered burns on his elbow from the crash. He was in good spirits when I met up with him this afternoon, though.
No, I'm doing pretty good, you know, considering the week that I've had. It's been all right. So just a little bit sore, but outside that, finally got out of the hospital today and just come out and check out the car and see how things are progressing with it and get it home and see what we can do with it.
This was kind of a pride and joy for you before you went out and raced it. How much does it break your heart to see it?
Well, it does. I think any of the race cars that we build, we got a lot of pride and joy in them, and it just it's always devastating to wreck it or anything like that. But myself and Russ Hookwater got a lot of time into this, along with everybody else that's helped us too. And it just last year was tough because the engine quit. and I didn't get to race it. Well, this year I've been able to race it twice now, and or 3 times, and then running into here, at least it was quick. We won the heat race. It looks like it was going to be quick in the feature, and of course we had our incidents. So yeah, it's devastating, but the same token, at least I'm fine, and I can still go race, and so we can build another car.
They can build another car. There's only one Johnny Benson. Great to see him up and okay. He's just going to heal now. When I asked him if he planned on continuing racing, he said, oh yeah. So, Ryan and Susan, we will see Johnny Benson behind the wheel of a race car in the not too distant future.
However, this wasn't the end of it yet. On the Wednesday edition of NASCAR Now, Johnny was interviewed via the phone and gave the details of what exactly happened.
Berlin Raceway did not go as Johnny Benson had planned. An early wreck during a Supermodified race ended with the reigning Truck Series champ being extricated from his burning race car. It also led to a few days in a Grand Rapids, Michigan area hospital. But there is good news. Johnny Benson spent last night at home. Hey there, welcome to NASCAR Now. I'm Nicole Mansky. Joining us now on the phone from Michigan, from the comfort of his own home, is Johnny Benson. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Nicole. It's just, a little sore, but I guess it could be expected for, an incident like that.
There were several conflicting reports regarding your injuries, everything from a punctured lung to broken ribs and even some minor burns. Clear things up from us. What exactly did happen?
Well, as far as injuries go, I've got 3 broken ribs. I broke my left shoulder blade or scapula, whatever you want to call it. I broke both collarbones, and I broke my right wrist, and I've got a little burn on my left elbow, and I just bruised my lung. I didn't puncture it, so that part was good.
Wow, you really did yourself up good. How much of the accident do you actually remember?
Well, I remember, going down into the corner there, and it was just, just the wrong place at the wrong time. The guy in front of me got a little bit loose, and I come into the outside pretty quick, and when he come up the track, I hopped over his tire and, turned driver's side into the wall, which, most of everything probably would have been fine if it wasn't for how I hit the wall. Going in left side with one of those cars is just something that's not very pleasant. So, with that being said, I hit the wall, and then I think things were scrambled up just for a second. The next thing I remember was, them putting out the fire a little bit, and then the track getting me out of the car. So I think everybody did a great job. There's just, one of those deals where it's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and in this sport, you'll find that every once in a while you pay for certain things.
We know it's early. You've only been home for about 24 hours, but what does your road to recovery look like?
Well, hopefully speedy. I mean, there's a couple of things that take a while. I mean, the ribs take a while, and obviously those hurt pretty bad right now. So I think once we get past that here in the next 2 weeks, I should be feeling like I'm pretty well to go.
Well, the accident certainly capped off a rough week for you, one that began with your Truck Series team closing down to the economy. In between the 2 incidents, though, Kyle Busch said he wanted to get you into the number 51 truck. Busch and the team owner, Billy Ballou, said it was good for the Truck Series to have the reigning champ competing. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it was good. Kyle was actually up at the racetrack on Wednesday. I raced my Outlaw car there, and he was running the CRA cars, and it was great to have him come up there. We had a lot of race fans up there, and it was just just really cool to have him there. So we had talked about me jumping in his truck and driving it, and he said that he was obviously pretty committed to do Michigan, which I'd like to have done, and Milwaukee I'd like to have done because it'd go for 4 in a row. But I think they have Eric Amarato in there for committed for that. So it didn't look like that was going to happen, but it was definitely a great gesture. I mean, I love the series, especially being a past champion, and just, we just didn't do a very good job of looking for sponsorships to keep the one going. So I'm sure something will come up. I had a couple of things that look really, really good for the future. So I'm really excited about the future, to tell you the truth. I just got to, get through these next couple of weeks first.
You just have to get better. Johnny, we wish you well, and get well soon.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
On the Friday edition of The Setup, which was the Truck Series pre-race show during that time, and yes, I said Friday edition because the race was rain delayed to Saturday afternoon, they basically gave a synopsis of everything that happened and also had said probably the most conflicting detail of them all: whether or not Johnny had suffered a concussion. The initial reports didn't say it. Johnny himself initially didn't say it. In some later interviews he says he did, but then in others he doesn't mention one. After some reviewing, and by my own personal preference, for his sake, I'm going to say that he did not. Meanwhile, regarding the Milwaukee race itself, Johnny was brought up during the race when it did eventually run.
And remember, this is the truck basically that Johnny Benson started the season, and they changed the number when the funding dried up for Johnny. Timothy Peters brought strutmasters.com over, and they changed the number to 17. They continued to use the owner points for the one. But let's give a shout out to Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy that won this race the last 3 years, and unfortunately Johnny had a serious accident last week at Berlin Raceway in Grand Rapids in the Supermodified and is on the mend. But we understand that Johnny is home and going to be just fine. So we want to say, Johnny, we miss you here, man.
And he said we can call him anytime during broadcast if we want to talk to him, which I thought was very polite of him.
He was also brought up during the New Hampshire Nationwide race the following week, but for a different reason.
We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Before we do, happy birthday, Johnny Benson. Remember, he was in a crash a few weeks ago. He's home recuperating. He's 46 years old today. And get well, Johnny. We miss you.
So with the exception of the birthday well wish from Marty Reid, there was no notable update regarding Johnny until the first week of July. There, it was found out that Johnny would have shoulder surgery later that month, 2 weeks off the announcement date, actually. This surgery had been delayed due to his lung injury. A good chunk of my racing buds did not know about that until Ron Hornaday made note of it in his Victory Lane interview after winning the Kentucky truck race.
This is pretty exciting, 3 in a row. I think Johnny Benson's the only one that's ever done it, and this is cool. Johnny, too, by the way. I heard he's getting an operation tomorrow. Do good, buddy.
The surgery was done the following Monday, and though it ended up being 2.5 hours, it went perfectly fine with no difficulties or setbacks. The only downside was the fact that this entire thing basically meant that Johnny would not be able to race for the rest of the year, mainly due to concerns of what would happen if he were to get crashed before he was fully healed, which is understandable. Regardless, Johnny did make a few other appearances in 2009 at the track for the Truck Series. The first was at the Bristol event the following month, where he was a guest of Exide, which was a past sponsor of his. Before this, he was a part of 2 different segments during the pre-race show. The first was honoring Rick Wren for becoming the winningest crew chief in the history of the Truck Series, where 5 of his wins came while being the crew chief for Johnny in 2006. The second was directly about Johnny and that night at Berlin, followed by Johnny being interviewed after the segment.
Welcome back to Bristol. You know, we've been talking a lot about Hornaday's streak. Well, when we came to this track last year, Johnny Benson was on a streak of his own, trying to win 4 in a row. He fell a little bit short. He finished 4th in this race. The last 2 months, the only streak JB has been thinking about is a streak of rehab sessions as he heals and recovers from the worst wreck of his life.
I've been at this racetrack since I've been about 6 or 7 years old. Every time you go there, it still just gives you that really cool feeling that, you know, you're back home and you're going to put on a race for the fans. They start, and everybody, just like any other type of race, they fight for the bottom. Everybody was moving down, and I just kept rolling around the top. Well, as we went down into turn 3, another car went to go to the bottom. And as I was going to roll around the outside of him, I was probably running 7, 8, 10 mile an hour quicker. And he just got really loose and slid up the track. And and then basically I run him over. Next thing I know, I'm turned around and into the wall. Because it turned clockwise, it made it for a very bad angle going into the wall, and the lights went out. Next thing I remember at that point in time is just being getting put out from being on fire.
Absolutely ferocious crash over in turn 3 and 4. Let's hope that driver is okay. That is an absolutely wicked, wicked crash.
And fire is one thing I think that scares all drivers, and it does have an unsettling effect when you look at the pictures, for sure. I remember taking my gloves off, I remember taking my restraints off, the helmet, pulled out, going in an ambulance trip to the hospital, and everything else that happened outside that. There's just that real small moment, and it's not that much time. Just a couple of minutes is all that I don't recall. I do remember one moment I was just about ready to get out of the car. My mom walked down there, and I saw her, and I've never seen her on a racetrack from any wreck that I've been in, my dad's been in, or anything. I remember the part just being real specific of cleaning my burns because the skin was falling off and pulling that off, and I cut my knee and just trying to get the stuff off your face. I had some internal bleeding. My left lung had a lot of blood in it, and they didn't really do anything for a while, but it did slow down the aspect of having surgery on the shoulder. That held that up about 3 or 4 weeks. It was a bad wreck that could have been worse, but it wasn't. I wasn't in ICU for a week or 2 weeks or anything. I was only in that for a day. I was in the hospital for 3 days with some complications that I've got to deal with. Debbie had asked me, she goes, "Oh, so, where do you stand now?" And I said, "I didn't hit that hard." I said, "We got a lot of racing to do yet."
No doubt scary times 2 months ago for Johnny Benson, and tonight marks the first time he has been back at the track for a Truck Series event since that accident. So here you are at a place where you've gone to victory lane, you won the championship a year ago. How hard is it to be here and not be getting behind the wheel?
Well, that part's pretty hard, there's no doubt. So, I got a long ways to go before I can get back into the truck or car or whatever it may be. So there's that, but I've also enjoyed being at home with the kids and Debbie and just enjoying a little time off. So that part's been great. The bad part is watching Ron win all these races. We got to do something about that. It'd be great to come and work on that a little bit.
We hope to see you back behind the wheel soon.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. And like I say, I just got to thank everybody, all the fans and family and all that, and Exide for letting me sit in their suite today. So it's been a great day. It's been great to see everybody, and looking forward to getting back in the truck.
We look forward as well, Krista.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much. So great to see Johnny Benson back at the track.
Johnny's other appearances at truck races in 2009 came in the form of him being a guest commentator, which he had done before in 2004. The most notable of those races being the Gateway race with the double controversial ending, and the Las Vegas race resulting in Johnny Sauter's very first Truck Series win.
Johnny Sauter will win at Las Vegas.
After that, the next time Johnny Benson would be at the track for a truck race, he would be racing. That would be the 2010 Daytona truck race. Things started off rough as Ron Hornaday spun both Johnny and Dennis Setzer, who were both driving for Danny Gill, during practice, and both their trucks were damaged. They were repaired, and both drivers finished very well, with Dennis finishing 3rd and Johnny finishing 8th. However, the finish itself... Todd Bodine and Timothy Peters, of all people, were the two battling for the win. Peters ended up getting the win, but then Todd Bodine does this.
Timothy Peters is going to win at Daytona. They crashed behind him. Todd Bodine crossed the stripe in second, got sideways, and now Johnny Benson is in him.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And this was the second time that race where Todd had caused an incident that nearly wrecked Johnny. As if Ron doing what he did during practice wasn't bad enough. I'm not joking. Johnny nearly got crashed out in that race no less than 4 times. Twice by Bodine. Albeit in Bodine's defense, the first time was because of a flat tire. But anyway. That would be Johnny's only race in the 95, as he next raced 3 races for Billy Ballou at Martinsville, Kansas, and Dover. He got 2 fifth-place finishes and a 10th place finish. His next start was Texas for Kyle Busch, who did say he intended to find Johnny a ride in exchange for Johnny mentoring the young drivers racing for him. In that race, Johnny finished 10th. That's 5 top 10s in 5 different races, including 2 top 5s. And all this for 3 different teams. So obviously Johnny still had it to compete at that level, and with his gentleman driving style, with him and Mark Martin being NASCAR's last true and successful gentleman racers. The strange part is that, even up to this point in time, that was actually the last time Johnny had raced in NASCAR. The Miccosukee Resort sponsorship dried up for Kyle Busch, so his plan to get Johnny a ride did as well. after getting some payback on those Supermodifieds for a good bit and earning a good deal of success there, the idea was that Johnny would start his own truck team in 2012 with Pure Michigan as the sponsor. I later found out that Stacy Compton was supposed to be a part of this endeavor as well. But after the Pure Michigan sponsorship deal fell through, the plan was abandoned. Johnny still continued to mentor a variety of drivers and still does race every once in a while in a variety of race cars. But I do wonder if things would have been different had the events of June 13th, 2009 went differently. If that crash didn't happen and he didn't get injured, what would have happened at Milwaukee with him and Kyle Busch's truck? Would he have gotten 4 wins in a row there? Would a ride have opened up afterward for the rest of 2009? How long would he been able to compete in the Truck Series? And would he have gotten the proper send-off he, and honestly other Truck Series veterans as well, should have gotten? Now those are the questions regarding him and the positive aspects of all this and how things would have changed if the events of June 13th, 2009 went differently for the better. But there's also the negative aspect and how that would have changed things had it been even worse. Worse in the way a few of my racing buds had initially feared it would during the Michigan Cup race after hearing what had happened. It was on the 10-year anniversary of Dan Wheldon's death that I really reflected on a particular thought. After Dan's death, 2 days after my birthday nonetheless, I had nearly quit watching IndyCar. My trust in the series was already extremely low at that point. In the end, the support of my friends who follow IndyCar and the Wheldon tributes I saw all throughout 2012 kept me going in IndyCar. NASCAR afterward got so bad I nearly quit watching auto racing for good after the debacle that was the entirety of the 2015 playoff. I had only stayed because of my YouTube channel and I didn't want to leave or disappoint those I had considered my friends. 2018 had a similar situation, this time in the community itself, where afterward I really questioned if I truly wanted to stay after finding out the truth regarding myself in relation to the community. These last few years, though, have really taken a toll. Because of a lot of things that have happened that flat out crossed the line, I pretty much quit watching NASCAR. My interest in auto racing is nowhere as high as it used to be, and a great deal of that is the fault of NASCAR's egregiousness and stupidity over the last 20 years, especially in relation to management. I still associate with my core group of friends on their channels who are mainly racing gamers, but NASCAR itself is flat out unwatchable now. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. There was a quote that Dan Wheldon said once, and I think it's a thought most race fans share in terms of their racing favorites.
Do I believe that it'll ever happen to me? No. Could it happen to me? Absolutely. As a driver, yeah, I do feel invincible, but at the end of the day, you know, if your time's up, your time's up. If you're going to go, you're going to go.
At times, I think of that quote while reflecting on a bad crash, usually in one of those on-this-day moments on social media. That's the thing about the 3 drivers that I have lost in racing wrecks. It can happen to a rising star like Blaze. It can happen to a veteran like Daryl. It can even happen to a legend like Dan. All 3 were at different points in their racing careers. All 3 were in different forms of motorsports. And all 3 died way too young. Daryl was the oldest of the 3, and he died at only 35. However, while reflecting on Dan Wheldon's death 10 years afterward, after really thinking about it, I had come to the conclusion that if that Supermodified crash in 2009 ended in the worst way possible for Johnny Benson, I believe I would have quit watching auto racing after that. And if not after that, then after Wheldon's death. I had already lost 3 drivers in a span of 10 years. Losing 4 in 10 years? And in 4 different motorsports in that? That would be too much for any racing fan in itself. But if one of them was your absolute top favorite of them all, that would have been just unbearable. Especially if your emotions are extreme, like mine are believed to be by many, including a few in my racing group. There are fans who used to watch auto racing who have quit watching auto racing after their favorite driver had died. You hear that most commonly amongst fans of Dale Earnhardt Sr. One of my racing buds whose favorite driver is Jason Leffler also fits that bill. Another of my racing buds, ironically, is a Dale Earnhardt Sr. fan. He continued on because of the support of our racing group. That in itself is ironic because he also watched Formula One and stopped watching F1 after the death of his favorite in that series, Ayrton Senna. It was 14 years later before he watched another Formula One race, the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, which for those who don't know was the season finale that year. And also, he only watched that alongside me because, me hearing of the points battle, I expected them to give me a preview of the Truck Series finale at Homestead. And to an extent, I was right. And that leads us back to Johnny. If Johnny was lost that night at Berlin in that Supermodified, after what Red Horse Racing pulled on him and his team earlier that week, I think it's very likely that I would not have continued with auto racing. Losing Blaze Alexander and Darrell Russell beforehand was already painful enough in their own individual ways. But if we would have lost Johnny Benson, that would have destroyed me. In comparison, my all-time favorite game show host, Peter Tamarkin, died in a plane crash in 2006. It took me nearly a year to get over that. Back in the day, there was this common debate amongst my racing buds over who I liked more, Johnny Benson or Peter Tamarkin. I am not making that up. It's often been said, even today, that I, quote, don't take bad news well. So surely that means I would not have taken losing Johnny well at all. Especially only 3 years after losing Peter, and all the things that had happened in between that time frame. And for the record, there is way more than you will ever know. If for some reason I would have somehow continued on after that, it's very likely that Dan Wheldon's death would have made me quit for good after 2011. My YouTube channel was barely a month old when Dan died, so I would have had no incentive to continue with racing videos on that channel after the college class my channel was born from. And no, I am not making that up. If I did continue until Wheldon's death, would I have ended up deleting the racing videos that were already up on the channel? Most notably the Mayfield Massacre series? Would I have even uploaded them and other racing videos to begin with? Would the channel have continued with another of my interests as the main focus and not racing? And for the record, it likely would have been Pokemon? Or would I have likely deleted everything after passing the college class? I believe it is very likely that either way, that would have been the case. The month before that Supermodified crash was the death of a former NASCAR driver by the name of Kevin Grubb, who if you watch my video on him on the 10-year anniversary of his death, you know his story. It was as a result of Kevin's death that I really started focusing more on mental health. It was also another former NASCAR driver from the state of Virginia that we lost way too soon, Eric McClure, that also made me more conscientious towards the injuries that the drivers suffer and their mental and psychological effects afterward. Eric McClure was only 42. Only 2 of my NASCAR dozen are younger than him. And one of them already had health issues of a massive level. That was Casey Kane. If all that happened to a driver born in 1978, are my drivers that are older than him okay from a health aspect? It's one of those things you think and wonder, being the type of person I am. Longtime racing fan, rooting for veterans and legends of the sport. Are your drivers truly okay after their careers? And some of them are still current. But when you get older, your attention turns towards other things. And maybe you picked up a few drivers of interest along the way. But then you do wonder if your drivers are okay on the inside with their health and stuff. Like my top two guys, Johnny Benson and Bill Elliott, the things that they have been through in their careers. This type of situation with McClure makes me do wonder if they are truly okay on the inside. And from what I see, the answer is yes, but I don't know that 100%. At least I hope that that's the case. Another irony that is not lost on me is the fact that particular weekend was nearly a double tragedy for NASCAR. For those who are unaware, that Supermodified event wasn't even the worst thing that had happened that weekend. A savage crash had also occurred in the NASCAR Mexico Series race that Sunday, but the result was the worst possible. The driver who crashed in this race was a driver by the name of Carlos Pardo, who was killed in the wreck that ended the race. Because of the rules in that series, Carlos was declared the winner, albeit posthumously. I myself was not aware of that particular incident until the segment after the update on Johnny on the Monday episode of NASCAR Now. And once again, I am not making that up. If you thought Johnny's crash looked bad, this one was actually way worse. Trust me on this one. 2009 was already bad enough as it was in the middle of June. The fact that weekend could have been a double tragedy for NASCAR, and while 2 of the 3 major divisions were in Johnny's home state of Michigan. Also, the fact that Carlos Pardo's number was the same as the one on Johnny's Supermodified, 21. And no, I am not making that up. A common thing throughout my years on YouTube is that I notice things that apparently no one else does. And things like that are ironies that I notice that I just can't unsee once I notice them. Yes, auto racing is inherently dangerous, and bad things can happen in that sport. We all know that. The evolution of safety does not mean the end of injuries or even fatalities in the sport, as we sadly know. Even the highest levels of racing still deal with that, as do the local levels, and those forms of motorsports you may not necessarily see on television. But it can lead to the reduction of very bad things happening if such an occasion should arise. Johnny noted this in a Sirius XM interview from 2010.
Tell us you're not putting any of your downtime into building Supermodifieds again. Just,
No, I got to build another one, but I got to get a sponsorship for that because that wreck cost me a lot of money.
No kidding. Well, it costs you more than money, yeah. Well,
it didn't kill me, so it's all right.
Jeez.
It's all the broken parts stuff. I tell you what, we've got some good doctors in this area, and of course in the business, they can put you back together. So I mean, it's just one of those deals. It could happen. It could happen anywhere. It can happen in the Cup Series. It can happen in the Truck Series. It can happen in late models. It can happen in modifieds. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, we've seen that. We've seen people that had a lot worse results than what I have. And, I know the sport's getting safer and safer. And probably had the sports not gotten safer, I probably wouldn't be here today just in the wreck that I did have. So, that aspect of it is I've always been on that side. If you get hurt, you fix it and you go back at it again.
In May of 2021, I went to Berlin Raceway for the very first time. While there, I got to meet Johnny Benson in person, get a picture with him, and get a few things personally autographed by him. Johnny was there competing in the limited late models that night. That was one of the happiest days I've had in such a long time in regards to racing, and likely ever. There was that one incident Johnny was involved in that made me and a few others freak out for a brief moment, despite the fact all that Johnny did was spin while others in front of him had crashed. In my instance, my freak out was probably caused by a combination of the memories of the Supermodified crash from 2009 and a ferocious crash involving Johnny Sauter the previous night at the Charlotte Truck Race. One where even anti-Johnny Sauter fans were concerned for his well-being, and the overall concern got to the point where Johnny Sauter was actually trending on social media. I am not making that up. Meanwhile, back at the event I was at, the fact it was at Berlin was not lost on me. In more recent years, Johnny did multiple interviews, and in a few of those, that crash came up. And within those interviews, Johnny revealed that crash was in fact even worse than what we ever knew. Now, there are a couple aspects of what Johnny says here that are different from the initial and most known reports that I feel may have been misremembered because of these interviews being way more recent, and especially in comparison to the reports initially after the wreck. But there are some things that Johnny reveals that were very scary, at least to me.
Well, while I was running the trucks, I decided a friend of mine let me drive a Supermodified once, and then I took a couple laps, and then he was like, "Oh, you want to run a race?" And in Berlin, my home track was on the schedule, and I said, "Look, we're going to do it. Let's go to my home track because I know the racetrack. I'm not trying to learn a race car and a racetrack." And so we went up there and tested, ran a race. It went pretty good. And then he goes, "Well, what are you doing tomorrow after that race?" And he says, "Let's go to Sandusky and run." And we went down there, and he was running 3 cars at that time. So his kid won the race. I was beside him. I run second, and the third car finished third. And so he finished in the top 3 there. And then he's like, "Well, keep running." Well, I was doing truck racing at the time too. And so we ran, and I won like 3 or 4 races. And then I was like, "Screw it, I'm building my own car." And I built that, and then about the 5th race into it, I had my bad wreck at Berlin where I tried to kill myself in it. And I was out about 4.5 months from breaking all kinds of stuff, a bunch of surgeries, and I was real fortunate I lived through it.
This was your Supermodified wreck and fire at Berlin, right?
Yeah.
All right, you explain the story of how this whole thing had happened, because this was also right around the time you'd won the truck championship, and I remember
it was right after.
Right, yeah. I remember Fox Sports doing a pre-race show talking about how this wreck and you getting hurt. What happened that night?
Well, the car was just so extremely fast. I mean, we were like, holy crap, fast, and I was basically impatient. At least it was, and it was just a matter of just going down. A car got loose, and I was going by him at a fairly good clip, and his right rear hit my left rear, and not any of his fault. I mean, it just happened. It wasn't. It was my, everybody would say, "Well, if you weren't in a hurry," I go, "I wasn't really in a hurry. His car was just that fast," but that could have happened at any moment. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if you've gotten a wreck. If you weren't there, it wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. So the racing stuff's going to happen, and this one did, but it was an extremely bad hit. I mean, I had a computer thing on there for wrecks, and it flatlined it at 100 G's. And
really, even
NASCAR came over, or the safety guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head now, but they came over and looked at the car, and he took that data and wanted to see it.
Wow. And you had a black box in the car?
Yeah, yeah.
It was kind of like that.
Kind of like that, and.
Wow.
So they were able to read the data, but the problem is that it flatlined at 100. It didn't go any higher than that, so they can't even estimate what it was. But I mean, it broke the engine on the car. It did so much stuff. I broke like all of my ribs on my left side, both my collarbones, broke my wrist, destroyed my shoulder, and then I bleeding out of this ear, had back concussion, and burnt my arm pretty good, but.
Because you had hit with the left side of the car.
I went left side,
Right, you pancaked, essentially, right?
Yep.
And the fuel cells on the left side of those cars too, right?
There's one there and then one behind me. And actually the left side one actually made it through the wreck. That ripped the rear one out of the car, which I was shocked because although they're small bolts, but it's squished between the frame there, and it had 32 bolts holding it in there, and it blew it right out of the car because it was full of fuel.
Wow.
But You know, so a couple surgeries, get you all patched up, ready to go.
Mhm.
And it's still,
Wow.
you know, but I was lucky. I was definitely lucky on that. And
Right. Well, this let me ask you, this was not a fuel fire though, because methanol
It's
usually
both.
burns blue, right?
It's both. It's both.
Fuel and oil.
Yeah, fuel and oil. Because my arm got burnt, and that's. I think as I got soaked with fuel, and so before the suit got an opportunity to close up, it started burning underneath me, which is really weird because it. Apparently, it was still on fire, and somebody just dumped water on it because methanol. You just pour water on it, it goes away. But it. So it must have saturated my suit before the suit got hot enough to close up, and because there's different styles of suits, and so I burnt my arm pretty good, but yeah, a lot of it's oil, and then,
Right.
but they emptied 7 or 8 fire extinguishers on it before they got the water truck because the methanol was still burning. But and I've always complained. I said, look, we got methanol there, just bring water truck. You don't need fire extinguisher.
Right.
And
holy cow!
So it was that part took a little bit of fun out of the race.
I was gonna say this is big. Was this the most injured you've ever been in a car?
Oh, by far.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It kept me out about 5 months.
Wow. Okay. Now was any part of the car salvageable, or was it all junk?
I mean, part of it, actually, the front clip wasn't bad, but the rest of the car was junk. But we did save the engine. I mean, it broke the block on it, but we fixed the block. Had to weld the heads up and stuff like that, so that was able to get out of it. And then the front clip actually made it through because I actually put that under the race car
really?
run with after about 5 years, and but everything else was not good.
Wow, that is just amazing. I mean,
it was crazy.
It's been some amazing stories that you've been sharing with us, and we're definitely going to get some shots of these photos for sure.
I only brought them. That's the first time I ever brought them because everybody always asks about it.
We're going to use them. We definitely want to include them into the show.
What do you remember, if anything, about the accident?
Well, I remember hitting a guy. The guy in front of me just got loose as all. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, but I was coming by him pretty quick, and his right rear got up in front of my left rear in an open wheel car, and so the car went up in the air, and I went in what we'll consider driver's side door because those cars are situated a little different. And I mean, I remember hitting a wall. I mean, I remember seeing that tire fold up, and my next memory was a bunch of workers there trying to put out a fire and trying to cut the roof of my car off, or the cage of my car off. And of course, at that point in time, I was yelling at them to not cut the roof of my car. And just a racer coming out into you when you wake up. So, and it was just one of those deals that you're just sitting there not, I knew it wrecked, and I'm kind of looking around, and I saw my mom standing in front of the car, and I still laugh about this a little bit, but she doesn't, but I do. And I go, crap, that must have been bad if you're standing there. She never comes out of the grandstands until after the race. And this is on the racetrack. And she goes, oh, it's pretty bad. And I go, I'm all right. And she goes, well, I'm not. And I said, it'll be all right. But it was, but getting out of the car was tough because I figured I was going to get out of the car. Man, I went to reach out and got my hands right about here. And I realized I busted up pretty bad. You can hear bones and stuff moving when you're, and so I broke all the ribs on my left side, both my collarbones, my wrist, destroyed my shoulder, burnt my arm up, and then head. Later, lung and kidney were bleeding and stuff like that. So I was whacked up pretty good there.
So you got in the ambulance, and didn't you say you kind of bottomed out in the ambulance a little bit?
I got in the ambulance. I could breathe, but just at this point in time, it's starting to hurt.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in a car, you're still just numb, but it started to hurt a little bit. And then I told the guy, I says, I need to sit up a little bit because I said getting to where I can't breathe. And then he's I don't know if I think he was arguing with me just probably because I was mad, but I was trying to get up. He's trying to keep me down, and I finally told him, I go, look, you don't set me up. You're gonna have to start a lot of work here because I'm getting like I'm feeling like I'm underwater. I'm starting to not be able to breathe. So I started grabbing shelves to sit up, and which hurt because I got a lot of broken stuff. But he finally did set me up, and then they picked the pace up going to the hospital. But it was just my lung filling up with with blood is what we've ended up figuring out. But this is one side. It just made it really hard to breathe.
How long were you in the hospital, and how long did it take before you started feeling like Johnny Benson again?
I was in the hospital for 4 days. Or 3 of them in the good side, I guess we'll call it. And then they moved me over to a private room. But I would say it was about a day and a half. Then I felt normal as far as my head and things of that nature. I mean, obviously, you're going to put you on some medication and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I was kind of making some jokes here and there, and everybody's like, yeah, he's pretty normal at this point in time. But, you know, on the physical side of things, it took a good bit. But yeah, mentally, I was in good spirits. I mean, I figure as long as you don't mess your head up too bad, you can find people to fix a rest, which is what I did. I had some good people that took care of it down here. Actually flew back home and got the majority of my medical work done down here. They helped me get through the first part, and then I came back down.
Something else that Johnny has said in recent years was in regards to how he wants to end his racing career. He has stated in the past that he would like to have won a championship in the ISMA series before retiring, which would have further solidified him as one of auto racing's most versatile champions ever. With the fact that a lot of his dad's racing success came in Supermodifieds, I understand that, despite my own apprehensions regarding them. Apprehensions that I feel are mostly because of that crash in 2009. However, my apprehensions regarding Supermodifieds will finally subside after 2024.
You mentioned earlier in the interview that you still race, and that is Supermodifieds, and I know Berlin is very excited and proud to be bringing Supermodifieds in this season. Will you get a chance? Is that one of the ones that's on your calendar to race this year?
Oh, absolutely. We're not running a full schedule. I think we got 2 Oswego races. We got a doubleheader at Lorain County, which is in Ohio, doubleheader at Berlin, and then there's always a doubleheader at Sandusky, Ohio. And that was all that's going to run. But then now they got a race. It's a non-points race, but they got a race down here in Caraway, North Carolina.
Oh.
I'm going to run that too, or at least Brad, the guy I run with, he goes, hey, we're going to come down to that. And that's just great. 15 minutes from the house. I'll do that too. So those are races are running. So yes, we are going to run Berlin. I know it's in July. I don't know if 14, 15, 16, somewhere, whatever that weekend is.
BerlinRaceway.com. BerlinRaceway.com for more information.
Yeah. And this is the last year I'm going to do it. I said it last year, and we had a new car, did some stuff, and we had a parts failure and a wrecked car. So then we went to a backup car.
Yeah, I remember that.
My year was not great. And so anyways, they're fixing the car. And I says, look, I'm just going to run Berlin. I love Berlin. I'm just going to run Berlin. And then as we got talking and things of that nature, and because we just got that car in the second week or third week, just starting to haul butt, and so it broke an axle and I wrecked it. And so we're pretty much got that back together. And I says, fine, I'm going to run the races that I mentioned. And then it's just going to be it. I like to say those cars is so cool to race, and they're so fast, and extremely changed. It's one of the hardest race cars I've ever driven. But they are a lot of fun. So yes, we got 2 nights at Berlin that we're going to run, plus the others we mentioned. And then I think when the end of the year comes, I'm going to find something a little slower.
I was going to say, are you going to call Ken? Oh, come on now. Come on. You got to call Ken Schrader or Kenny Wallace and get back to your dirt roots. That's what I think you should do. Build one of them modifieds and go back dirt racing.
I drove over the Le Mans, and they're pretty cool. And now when Berlin dirted the track, oh God, that's been what?
Oh yeah, that's been
14 years ago.
Yeah.
I did run that Lucas Oil race. I did run that at Berlin with one of the Lucas Oil cars or the World Outlaws. I'm not sure. I think it was the Lucas cars at that time, and it was phenomenal. I mean, that was a great time. But you know, that stuff is just so expensive and things of that nature. And they run a schedule that I don't want to do. And a couple races here and there. Oh yeah, I'd do it. I mean, if what was it last year? I think a guy called, wanted me to come up and run the old Thunderbird Speedway, and I was like, yeah. It says, get me a car. But then I think they had some problems with the track and things of this nature, and it didn't happen. But now a couple of those things I'll do. But as far as running a car, running a full schedule, I'm not going to do that anymore. This will be the last year for that. But every one-offs, maybe I could do that.
So as you heard, 2024 will be Johnny's last year racing Supermodifieds. But 2024 will not be his last year racing. What will Johnny be doing in the future in regards to racing? Well, that is entirely up to him. Whatever the future holds for Johnny after 2024, I do know one thing. He has stated that he wants his final race to be at, you guessed it, his home track, Berlin Raceway. The track that has given Johnny so much throughout his entire racing career. And yet is also the track that nearly took him from us. It's been 15 years since that ferocious crash at Berlin Raceway, and a lot of things would have changed had the result been much different, and especially for me. A couple of my friends have lost their all-time favorite racers in racing crashes, and went down completely different paths regarding racing afterward. Luckily, I didn't have to go through what they did, but I nearly did in 2009. And that event is a reminder that events like that can happen to any racer, at any race, in any series, at any time.